Hi dreamers, welcome back to the world of Tana Dreams. This is Brandon here with another Open Up and Draw episode. Okay, I know the first episode of this series was kind of dramatic, or really dramatic. Yes, I am dramatic, and my friends and teachers would always say, "Gosh Brandon, you're so dramatic, it needs to stop." But hey, I can be funny, or I at least try to be. So I thought today I would share a few funny field trip misadventures of teenage me. So the main extracurricular activities I was involved in during middle and high school were band, speech and debate, and French club. I know, I'm a big old nerd. Just kidding, I was the nerd. But if you're in these clubs, you're cool. You cool. But anyways, this first story happened on a band trip during the 8th grade. We were on a band trip for a regional competition. We did decently. I really can't remember what place we got, but more importantly, we got out of school for half the day and got to spend some time at a mall for lunch. Now, during lunch, I was sitting with a friend of mine, and whilst we were eating some delicious fast food served at the mall, we suddenly heard this group of 8th grade boys laughing their lungs out. I remember very clearly hearing them brag about how they got kicked out of Victoria's Secret because they were flirting with the mannequins. I've told this story to multiple people, many of whom were adults, and nearly every single time I get a response that's like, "Wow, that is really immature," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, they were that bad." This second story also happened on a band trip, but 1 year later when I was a freshman in high school. We were on a big field trip to San Antonio, Texas, and it was our big out-of-town spring trip of the year. Keep in mind that for this out-of-town trip, we did have to get a hotel room, each with 4 roommates. I was with my friend, let's call him Ken, and 2 other boys I really didn't know. Let's call those 2 other boys Ron and Ben. Ben was fine. He was a nice guy who I really didn't know prior to this trip, and for the most part, he didn't interact with me too much. However, Ron was a real jerk face. Now, I know what you're going to say. He's surely a better person now than when he was 15. Well, I'm sure that is true, but let's give my 14-year-old self this one pleasure as he went through a lot. Ron, from my 14-year-old self to your 15-year-old self, screw you. You were a major J to the E to the R to the K. Like, seriously, he pushed me off the bus seat so he could sit next to Ken. He dictated who would sleep where, and at one point he wouldn't even let me have my wallet back. I hope that justifies things a little bit. However, as I just mentioned, Ron dictated who slept where, so he forced me to sleep in the same bed as Ben, as he wanted to be in the same bed as Ken. Keep in mind that it was a 2-bed bedroom in the hotel. I didn't really complain because 1, I was a very shy 14-year-old boy who didn't really speak out much, and 2, Ben was fine. I didn't really have any issues with him. It was just a little awkward because I was young and didn't know Ben. However, we did fall asleep, but when I slowly woke up, I felt a little pressure against my butt. I came to and realized that Ben, a guy who I barely knew and was sleeping in the same bed with me, had his knee against my butt. Yeah. Awkward. The rest of the trip was fine. I have a lot of fun memories of that trip, but the rude awakening always stuck out to me. Now let's move on to a story involving the debate team. A little background about my debate career. I did the oral interpretation events. These events were like individual theater. There was poetry and prose in which you either read a poem or a short story from a binder. There was humorous interpretation or dramatic interpretation in which you performed a monologue that is either comedic or dramatic. Please put a pin here. This is important for the story I'm going to tell. Then there was duo and duet interpretation in which you can perform a scene with a partner. For this field trip, we headed down to Houston, Texas for an out-of-town tournament. I was set to perform a poetry, a prose, and a humorous interpretation. Keep that in mind. The trip was fun. I remember my interp group hanging out around the hotel, eating fast food, and then watching a movie together in the room. Then came the competition. I won't lie, I loved competing. I loved the thrill of performing in front of a judge and going against other very talented speakers. However, if I could do it again, I for sure would. The day of the tournament came. In the morning, I had to perform my prose. I did my round, didn't mess up too badly, and went along my way. However, I went back to my team in the cafeteria, and two of them told me, "Brandon, the humorous interp listings are up. You're not on the list." I looked at the listings posted on the wall, and they were right. I wasn't there. I immediately went straight to my debate coach and informed him of my situation. Let me explain right now that nearly all our communication was made through Facebook. Do you know why? Because the oral interp and the debate teams were in separate classrooms, and both teachers hardly ever communicated with each other. So all members of the speech and debate team were put into a Facebook group for all tournament signups, including which events you were going to do. I was 16, was in advanced and honors classes, and had strict parents who limited my internet access, so I couldn't check the group very often. Second, you didn't get notified of everything, you know? My coach pulls up a document from the Facebook group that I had never seen before and shows that I was instead signed up for a dramatic interpretation. I was shocked, and my coach, instead of helping me, he started shouting at me. He was like,
"Listen, man, you need to check these things. I posted this over a week ago and you said nothing."
While screaming at me, he was full-on banging his hand against the table, and I was shocked at the way he attacked me, basically. First of all, I'm so sorry for not going on Facebook or getting a notification. Second of all, my coach was not only perfect, but he was also the furthest thing from. Whenever I was in his class back when the team was consolidated, we would do absolutely no tournament prep and just goof off the entire time. He would lose the bus for us on multiple occasions, not show up to tournaments when we really needed him, and would always rant about how we didn't do well. Basically, he blamed his team and never once thought that he was part of the problem. I may possibly make a video discussing the debate class in the future, but anyways, this really shook me up. I had to miss my humorous interpretation event and went into my poetry round really upset. I didn't perform my best because of how my coach treated me, and as a result, I did very poorly. However, I then got my prose result, and then this boy here won the round. Yee-haw! Take that, coach! So that at least made me happy, and I could go home with my head held high. Performing well in front of a rude, vindictive debate coach was a victory on its own for me. This last field trip was honestly my favorite field trip, and that was for my French club. Every year, there was a big French competition held somewhere from mid to West Texas in which you would compete in a multitude of French-related events. Some of these events were very similar to speech and debate, such as poetry, prose, drama group, and you could also do musical events, improv events, and even art events. Unfortunately, I didn't do art at the time. The events I did were extemporaneous speaking, drama group, and instrumental group in which I played flute with a partner. Most events consisted of a preliminary round where everyone who entered was competing, then a semi-final round where the top 3 to 5 people or teams from those preliminary rounds would advance, and finally a finals round where you placed. I remember very specifically getting knocked out super quickly for my extemporaneous round as I was terrible at improv. I would have done better if they gave me poetry or prose, but advanced in my drama and instrumental group. In the midday, after performing in my semi-final rounds, we were getting some results back. My drama group didn't make it to the finals, but hey, that was totally okay. I was still proud of our performance. There was then a soccer game going on outside where schools could compete against each other. The knocked out drama group and a couple of old friends of mine decided to go. Keep in mind that I didn't know the results of my instrumental group at this point yet. I went outside with my school's quote-unquote team and was getting ready to play soccer, as in I had changed into sports shorts, a t-shirt, and even running shoes from a blazer and black dress shoes. Right as we were about to begin playing, I got a text from my flute partner saying, "Hey, we made it to the finals." I remember being on cloud 9, happy beyond belief, and super stressed out because I realized that by going to this soccer game, I was very late. So I grabbed all my things and bolted, but as I was bolting, someone from the opposing school actually wished me good luck. Aw, she was so sweet. I made it to my finals round, where we made 4th place. In fact, here is the very ribbon I won from this field trip. It was such a great memory for me. I had so much fun with all my classmates, and I hold this trip very, very dear to my heart to this very day. Which is why it does make me sad when I hear high schoolers saying, "Oh my gosh, I wish high school would just be over." And I'm like, you only get to be a teenager or in high school once in your life. After you pass high school, you're out of there for good. So please make the most out of your time, enjoy it, and savor every moment. Make as many moments happy as possible. A day you wished away in high school could be a day you wish you had back in your 50s. Thank you all so much for watching. Please don't forget to give the video a like and subscribe. The world of Tana Dreams is full of art, creativity, and positivity, and I would love to have you again. Have a wonderful rest of your day. May all your sweet dreams come true.